who feel comfortable with Donald Trump's finger on the nuclear codes.
I have a lot of faith in the common sense and good judgment of the voters of the United States of America.
I think it's fair to say that they are surprised by the Republican nominee. They are not sure how seriously to take some of his pronouncements. They're rattled by him. What we do is really important to the rest of the world.
Official Washington, the Pentagon, security experts are nervous about Trump, at least the ones that I talk to. The thing he's been consistent on is that he likes to be unpredictable.
Is that unpredictability what causes people anxiety?
Yes, I think so. I think we have to be unpredictable.
And really, kind of global peace is predicated on predictability.
I don't know if I want it, maybe I do, maybe I don't.
If you introduce unpredictability into the equation, then you open up the opportunity for misunderstanding and then miscalculation, and then conflict, which could be conventional and escalate into nuclear.
I was one of 10 former nuclear launch officers who signed a letter before the election stating to the effect that we did not think Trump was qualified to be in charge of the nuclear arsenal.
It's been a U.S. policy, though, for decades to prevent Japan from getting nuclear weapons.
That might be a policy, but
South
maybe,
Korea as well.
Can I be honest with you? Maybe it's going to have to be time to change.
After the original letter was published, that list had grown to about 30. Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, unaffiliated.
Wouldn't you rather, in a certain sense, have Japan have nuclear weapons when North Korea has nuclear weapons?
They said, I want Japan to nuke. I want Japan to get nuclear weapons. Give me a break.
There's always been discussion of accidents or what if somebody tried to game the system, or even of rogue nuclear actors in other countries. But I don't think there's been a lot of thought within the U.S. about, well, what if that is us? The main way we thought about it at the time was if we did our job, we wouldn't have to do our job.
Hands on keys.
If the adversary knew that we were ready to execute the mission at a moment's notice,
And release.
no one in their right mind would attack the United States with nuclear weapons.
The factor that initially compelled me into this topic was a sense of guilt at how much I didn't know about it.
They are the focus of evil in the modern world.
I was born into a world that was obsessed with nuclear weapons, but I came of age in a world that had largely forgotten about them. The Cold War recedes from memory, the Soviet Union recedes from memory, and nuclear weapons recede with them, when really that should not have been the case.
The danger of a nuclear catastrophe today, in my judgment, is greater than it was during the Cold War.
Former Defense Secretary William Perry, who was Defense Secretary under Bill Clinton, has said that we are closer to nuclear conflict now, which is saying something.
We're entering into what I would consider definitely a more complex threat environment globally.
3, 2, 1, now.
The tension between India and Pakistan over an area like Kashmir.
And the potential for border clashes to potentially escalate. Or in the case of North Korea, just the perception that they're just irrational and, the very definition of a rogue actor.
They're the only country in the 21st century to have tested nuclear weapons. Also concerning is that they're developing a missile that could carry this nuclear warhead to somewhere like the United States.
3, 2, push.
The tension between Russia and the U.S., which has ratcheted up over the past 8 years. You have troops amassing along the border with Russia in the Baltic states. You have Vladimir Putin rattling the nuclear saber.
There was a report recently that Russia had updated its national security strategy and had changed the wording with regard to nuclear war from unthinkable to unlikely.
The International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War put out a study a few years ago saying that if India and Pakistan were to exchange 50 nuclear warheads each, 2 billion, that's billion with a B as in boy, people would be at risk of dying around the world. The amount of soot and debris kicked into the atmosphere from the detonation of 100 nuclear weapons would cause a deleterious effect on global agriculture and put 2 billion people at risk. That's 100 nuclear detonations. There are somewhere between 14 and 15,000 on the planet right now.
Let's not kid each other. We've had quite a few accidents. Over the past 10 years, we have had accidents in California, in Arkansas, quite a few states, at least a dozen in the United States. How can you sleep at night?
The United States has had nuclear weapons for 71 years now, and that history has been plagued by a litany of accidents.
You know, in the 1950s and 60s, when we had bombers flying around with nuclear weapons on board, there were several instances of those where they crashed.
In 1961, a B-52 bomber broke up over North Carolina and dropped thermonuclear warheads down to the ground that, if they had gone off, would have exploded with 200 times the force of the Hiroshima bomb. There have been false alerts.
In 1979, President Carter's national security advisor got a call at 3 o'clock in the morning from NORAD saying, effectively, we are under nuclear attack.
The mistaken loading and inaction of a training scenario that was misinterpreted as a real-world scenario.
He was minutes away from waking up the president when he got another call saying, sorry, false alarm. There was an incident in 1983.
Sunlight reflecting off clouds.
Another incident in the mid-1990s.
The launch of a research rocket. All these kind of near misses, these moments when we've gotten to the brink of actually launching a retaliation, both the US and Russia. And one can only think that we're kind of gambling with that luck at this point. What happened over the course of the Cold War is the decision-making authority centralized with the president. Because there would be such little time.
The flight time for a nuclear ballistic missile is less than an hour, probably closer to half an hour, depending upon where it's coming from. You have to detect the attack, characterize it. The president then has to think about what he's going to do, order a potential response, and then that message has to flow down to the people like us at the end of the chain who then have to execute it. Once you add all that up, there's not a lot of time in there to be thinking through the decision process.
And so the president accumulated this power to kind of be the sole decision maker to launch a nuclear weapon, and that is an ethos that persists today. And you know, that's investing a lot of power, the power really to end the world, in one person.
I get a kick out of these dopey people, these stupid, foolish people. When they talk about, can we trust Donald Trump with nuclear? Can we trust him?
Trump probably inadvertently put his finger on a lot of these issues that are absurd about nuclear weapons policy and nuclear doctrine. That may be a good thing, that maybe we're finally forced to confront some of those absurdities that we may have glossed over through jargon and just kind of not thinking about it.
I'll be the last one to use nuclear. I'll be the last one. Believe me, I would be the last one.